Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sewickley Academy's third annual TEDxSewickley Academy event. Thank you for all for taking time on your busy Saturday morning to join us. My name is Raina Tucker, and I'm a senior here at the Academy and the co-president of the TEDx Youth Club, alongside Landon Dishart and our incredible team. It truly means so much to me that each and every one of you has come out to support our program. As we gather here to explore new ideas, perspectives, and experiences, I want to discuss a topic that goes unnoticed, but plays an important role in our lives: the relationship between motivation and discipline. When it comes to the interplay between motivation and discipline, it is often hard to understand that while motivation ignites our drive to pursue our goals, discipline is the fuel that keeps us going when the initial excitement fades. Motivation can be fleeting. It often comes in bursts, driven by inspiration or enthusiasm. However, discipline is a steadfast practice that turns our aspirations into reality, especially during times of challenge or when our motivation wanes. Both are essential and complement each other in achieving success. Today, on behalf of the TEDx team, we are honored to present an extraordinary lineup of 7 speakers from the greater Pittsburgh area, each of whom have achieved remarkable success. It is a great pleasure that I now invite my co-president, Landon Dishart, to the stage to share a few more words and officially kick off our conference.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for choosing to spend your Saturday morning with us. We're all in for what certainly will be an inspiring event. My name is Landon Dishart, and I am a senior here at Sewickley Academy, as well as the co-president of the TEDx Youth Club. It is truly an honor to stand before you, and I am looking forward to hearing from our incredible lineup of speakers, as I'm sure you are. This gathering here today is not just about sharing ideas, it's about igniting something deeper within ourselves. It is part of the human experience to have goals and dreams. These dreams and big ideas are what motivate us, but it's the practice of discipline that allows us to accomplish what we thought we could never do. I read a great book called Discipline Equals Freedom by retired Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. In the book, Willink drives home the idea that motivation can only take us so far. Through the implementation of discipline, and only through consistently doing the difficult things, can our goals be met. This philosophy of discipline is a paradigm among the most successful people all over the globe, and even dates back to Aristotle's ideas of Nicomachean ethics, where he emphasizes that true happiness comes from practicing virtue through forming strong habits. He explained that self-control of the mind and discipline are necessary to achieving excellence and living a fulfilling life. Before I continue, I would like to share with you a short message and video from the TEDx platform.
Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
I hope today's lecture series will inspire not only my fellow senior school classmates, but also students, parents, friends, and community members who have joined us. I have enjoyed every minute of learning about all of our speakers and how they have individually and collectively served our community. Once again, I want to thank you for waking up early this Saturday morning in helping to make this event a success. Without further ado, we bring you our third TEDxSewickley Academy event. Please sit back, enjoy, and prepare to be inspired as I introduce to you our first speaker, State Representative Arvind Venkat. Representative Arvind Venkat, an emergency physician, was elected to the State House of Representatives in November of 2022. He is the first Indian American elected to the State House and the first physician in nearly 60 years to serve in the General Assembly. He represents the 30th Legislative District, which includes part of Hampton Township, as well as McCandless, Franklin Park, Ohio Township, Emsworth, Avon Heights, and Kilbuck. Representative Venkat is a strong advocate for accessible health care, supporting first responders, protecting reproductive rights, curbing gun violence, expanding voting access, and getting more people back into the workforce. Inspired by his immigrant parents' hard work and dedication to service, he became a physician. He earned his undergraduate and graduate degrees at Harvard University, his medical degree at Yale University, and completed his emergency medicine residency at the University of Cincinnati. He has served on the McCandless Franklin Park Ambulance Authority Board and was formerly president of the State Emergency Physicians Organization. Representative Venkat resides in McCandless with his wife and 3 children. Please join me in welcoming Representative Arvind Venkat to the stage.
So thank you for that kind introduction, and most importantly, I'm the father of a former Swickley Academy student, so it's wonderful to be here at Swickley Academy. When I was thinking about this topic of motivation and discipline in the face of adversity, it brought me back to my decision to become an emergency physician and then ultimately to also serve as a state legislator. And there's 2 countervailing forces that are here, motivation and discipline. And when I was thinking about this, I started to think about how do they interact with each other and what are the other aspects that lead to motivation and lead to discipline. And for me, motivation honestly comes from my immigrant background. I was born in India. My parents immigrated here when I was very young. And there's a motivation that goes along with being an immigrant. I'd be willing to imagine every one of us here has an immigrant story, either ourselves or in our background. And the motivation that comes with integrating into a new society, into a new country, and wanting to succeed, that motivation, frankly, came from my parents, from examples in my local community where I grew up in the Detroit area, and then going off to college and medical school and beyond. The other part of motivation I think that we have to acknowledge is that it comes from ambition, but it also comes, frankly, from a certain aspect of vanity. I think every one of us, when we're thinking about our professional future and what we want to accomplish, it comes back to we believe, and vanity can sometimes be viewed as a vice, but I think there's a certain appropriateness to it in believing that you can succeed, that you can be someone who stands out in the crowd to do something hard. And that's where the motivation came to me when I went to medical school. When I went to college, I had no idea that I was going to go to medical school. My parents were both physicians, and I said, I'm not going to do that. And then I worked for a lawyer one summer in college, and I said, I'm definitely not going to do that. And I had to think about what I wanted to do. And having a perspective in understanding that physicians throughout history have contributed not only in the care of patients, but also in improving the health and well-being of their community, their states, and ultimately their nations and the world, was what I saw in my study as a history of science major in college that motivated me to go to medical school, along with the example from my parents. But you face adversity along the way. Medical school, for those who, and I'd be willing to imagine there are many here with a medical background, is no joke. There's always a great deal of adversity that goes along with it. And this is where the discipline comes in. And for me, the discipline in overcoming adversity comes from a sense of empathy. To be an effective physician, there's a saying that all physicians learn in medical school. No one cares about what you know until they know you care. being able to relate to the emotions and experience of our patients is ultimately what gets me through serving as an emergency physician, which, trust me when I say, there are moments of adversity and frankly moments of humility that counter any type of ambition or any type of perspective you might have at that moment. And I'd be willing to bet all my fellow speakers would agree that they've seen their moments of humility in their professional background as well. The examples that I take as an emergency physician is that I remember patients who I frankly was not able to help them the way that I hoped. Part of that was my failures and the failures of the clinical circumstances that we were in. They were too sick for us to be able to care for them. But also the failures that we see in our healthcare system. And ultimately, how do we overcome that? It's a special privilege to be an ER doc because we care for everyone, no questions asked. But we also see the gaps in our community. And I remember a patient which really reinforced to me the discipline that we needed in order to try and move forward with how we care for patients. She was a woman in her late 50s. She came in with back pain. I thought she had pulled a muscle in her back, and I was wrong. She had an overwhelming breast cancer that had spread all over her body. And she was critically ill because of imbalances in her blood chemistries as a result of that. And after stabilizing her, getting a chance to talk with her, she told me a very humbling story of how she lacked insurance and how she wasn't able to therefore seek care when she needed it until frankly it was too late. And that adversity of not being able to help her, frankly only being able to comfort her in her dying process, reinforced to me the importance of that, the importance of having that discipline to be able to relate to others in their time of need that would then continue to allow me to serve effectively as an emergency physician and in all the other work that I did. And being an emergency physician, because you are able to see so much of what happens in society, as was mentioned, I would happen to be president of the State Emergency Physicians Organization when COVID hit. And very much by accident, I was thrust into the local and state response to COVID. And what I saw was the adversity, frankly, that we were seeing as a local community, as a state, and as a country, and the world, where pandemics inevitably highlight the divisions that exist in our society. And we see that science and healthcare have its limitations, that there are certainly other factors that need to be brought to bear when we're making decision making, but that we can be informed by the science, even if we choose not to so-called follow the science, a phrase that I never really liked. So I made the decision to run for office because frankly, I felt we needed more people with scientific and healthcare backgrounds in the political process to be able to bridge these divides. Trust me when I say that my immigrant parents, I learned a lot of new swear words in Bummer, my native language, that I didn't know before. Basically saying, why the heck are you doing this? Why, you're a successful physician, your wife's a physician, you have 3 beautiful children, you have a wonderful life. Why are you throwing yourself into what can be a very vicious and, an adversarial process? And my answer was that to those who much has been given, much has to be given back. And that we have a need in our society for individuals who have been able to bring to bear their motivation, to bring that discipline into the public arena, to be able to serve our community. And there's adversity in the political process as well. I've lived a pretty boring, straight and narrow life, but in politics, because there is a winner and a loser in every political process, it is an adversarial process. As much as we'd like to see a unifying process, there's ultimately a choice that is made between candidates. And I faced adversity during my campaigns, and I do to this day in office. I remember, and some of you are my constituents, and so you may have seen this, during my first campaign, one of the accusations that was made against me was that I am not, quote unquote, one of us. That I didn't come from Pittsburgh, that I wasn't one of Pennsylvania, that I was from Michigan at one point, or that I was an Indian American background. And to me, that adversity, being put under that microscope, the way I responded was by trying to meet people where they were and exercise that empathy of being able to understand their emotions, my constituents' emotions, my neighbors' emotions, what they cared about, what they were looking for in an elected official. And the way that I brought discipline to that process was by door knocking. I have knocked on 35,000 doors in my time in running for office over the last 2+ elections. For those of you who live in my district, I probably knocked on your door at least a couple times at some point. And those conversations are what gives me hope and it gives me the motivation and discipline to overcome the adversity that I see in this very, interesting time. I'll leave it at that. And so where I end up coming down on this issue of where our motivation and discipline in overcoming adversity is really a twofold way. The first is, it's okay to have individual ambition. It's okay to have vanity. It's okay to have drive. And I think that's natural. That is a motivator for success. But the discipline comes from when you can step outside of yourself. When you're able to show empathy to others and you're able to really relate to what are their emotional needs, what are their circumstances, and put yourself in their shoes. Because that's how you then understand when in your moments of challenge that you're able to overcome that. So I thank you again for this opportunity to be here today. I appreciate the work that's being done by TEDxSewickley Academy Youth Conference. Hopefully my daughter, Ami, who may be watching online and was a graduate of Swickley Academy, will say I've been worthy of this moment. And thank you so much for being here.